Have you ever noticed that your content gets tons of engagement, but when it actually comes down to making sales, things slow down dramatically? Or maybe you're getting consistently calls booked and people who seem super excited, but then they tell you they need to think about it, they can't afford it, it's not the right time, there's something else going on. If this sounds really familiar, I want you to know that you're not alone, because the truth is that a lot of the experts and coaches that I see out there are making 3 critical mistakes that are actually repelling the premium clients that they truly want to attract. And so today, I'm going to break down exactly what these 3 mistakes are, and more importantly, what you need to do instead. So let's dive into mistake number 1. If you follow me for a while, you know what it is. It is what I like to call the Ursula effect. If you remember the Ursula from The Little Mermaid, she used to speak to the poor, unfortunate souls. And the thing is that a lot of experts are actually accidentally doing that exact same thing with their own messaging. So basically, this happens when you overly focus on pain points and problems. And what happens is that you end up attracting people that are really, really stuck in their problem, so much so that they don't take action. If you ever feel like your audience really resonates with your content but rarely invest, then you might be speaking to the wrong version of your true ideal audience. And the reason why it doesn't work is that it attracts people who are basically in victim mentality, who really struggle with making decisions. Like, they're really so stuck in their problem, it's going to be really difficult for them to be able to see the solution and see a way out. And it leads to endless conversations with people who wish so much that they could work with you, but never really take action. And what happens is that it also creates content that just kind of drains your audience, and honestly, it drains you in the process as well. So you end up not showing up in like the biggest leadership version of you, right? And so this is something that I see happening all the time. Like, a client comes to me really frustrated because they're getting tons of DM from people saying, I love your content, this is so good, this is so needed. But when they get on sales calls, there's a lot of objections and excuses. So what you need to focus on instead is to really shift your message to speak to the driven hero who's really ready to actually solve their problem right now. These are essentially what I like to call power buyers. These are people that are not looking for you to come in and save them. They're looking for somebody to guide them. So instead of saying things like, oh, I know you feel stuck and I know how overwhelmed you are and how terrible things are, you're going to say things like, here's how top performing managers land executive roles in competitive spaces. Like, can you see the difference? One of them is speaking to the struggle and the problem, and the other one is speaking to the vision, what they want. You want to call in the leader, not the person that is in pain, right? Remember that the people who are ready to invest in premium solutions are those who typically are going to take responsibility for your own success or their own success. So your messaging really has to reflect that. The second mistake that I see very often is what I like to call the generic guru. And this one is unfortunately really, really common. And basically, it really ends up killing your ability to attract premium clients. It's the people that are like, I help X audience achieve this vague outcome through this generic process syndrome, right? So when your messaging sounds exactly like everybody else's, you become a commodity, and commodities compete on price, not value. Like, I had a client, for example, who was a health coach, and her message was like, I help busy professionals lose weight and get healthy. And when we looked at her competitors, they sounded basically exactly the same. Like, they were saying the same thing. No wonder, obviously, she was struggling to bring in people like that were actually ready to buy premium pricing, right? So the reason why that doesn't work is that it makes you indistinguishable from every other expert out there. If you sound like everybody else, why would a premium client buy from you specifically, right? It forces you to compete on price instead of the value or the transformation that you're getting for your clients. So when you're a commodity, the only differentiator becomes how much you charge, and it leads to engagement from people who see your content as interesting and valuable rather than essential. People might like your posts, but they don't feel compelled to work with you right now. So what you need to do instead is develop your angle of mastery, that unique perspective, that literally the angle, the POV, the way that you look at the problem, the solution that nobody else has. This is your lens, your specific way of viewing everything that's happening that really nobody can compare with, basically. So instead of saying like, I help busy professionals lose weight, my client now says, I help high executive performance overcome stress-induced metabolism syndrome so that they can maintain peak physical performance without sacrificing their career momentum. Pretty different. Like one of them is pretty generic. The other one is really specifically tailored to their audience, their need, your vision, your way of doing things. So you want to really position yourself as that thought leader, because when you do so, you end up creating this clear, compelling message that gets premium clients to seek you specifically because they can't get your unique approach anywhere else. That leads me to the third mistake, which is the education trap, where you're giving so much value thinking that maybe by giving it all away, I'm going to be able to attract people that are ready to buy. And so you're creating tons of educational content, how-to guides, step-by-step tutorials, detailed breakdowns, but it's not really translating into sales. The reason why is that educational content attracts DIYers, not buyers. If you're constantly teaching in your content, giving how-to steps and guides and tutorials, you're accidentally making your audience believe that they can figure it out themselves. Like, why this doesn't work is that it attracts people who are looking for free solutions, not necessarily premium coaching. They're there to learn, not to buy. It makes people think, this is great, let me give it a shot. Instead of, I need to hire you right now. And it creates an audience basically of consumers, not buyers, right? They're going to happily consume everything you put out there for free, but they won't take that next step. So what you need to do instead is shift from how-to content to perspective shifting content, or demand priming content, right? The type of content that really allows your audience to think differently about the problem that they had. So for example, instead of saying 7 exercises that you need to do to reduce back pain, you would say why traditional physical therapy is making your back problem worse. And this is the hidden connection between stress and chronic pain, for example, right? One of them is teaching tactics. The other one is shifting perspective, right? Your content should sell them on the transformation, not the tactic, really. When you create content that shifts how people see their problem, they naturally are going to seek out that solution. So now that we've covered the mistakes, let's talk about how to craft your message in a way that really brings in those power buyers so that you're not repelling them in the process. So this is a process that I like to call the need to have formula. And it has 3 really key components. The first part is where you are diagnosing the root cause. Instead of focusing on surface level problems, you want to get to the real reason why your audience has the problem in the first place. So the people who buy high ticket solutions aren't just looking for help. They're looking for somebody who understands the real hidden problem that they don't even fully understand yet. So to give you an example of this, one of my clients works with entrepreneurs on their productivity, but instead of just talking about time management or, productivity tools or things like that, she focuses on something that she calls the success resistance, right? And so these are the unconscious patterns that cause successful people to self-sabotage when they're on the verge of hitting their next breakthrough. That diagnosis resonates at a much deeper level with her power buyers than just talking about time management. When you can name the root cause in a way that nobody else is talking about, those power buyers will feel like you're reading their mind. You're giving them insight into something different. The next thing that you want to do is differentiate yourself using your angle of mastery. So you want to ask yourself, what's that unique way that I have of solving the problem? What's my bold perspective on why traditional methods don't work? The more specific that you are and more refined you are with your method, the more indispensable you end up becoming. This isn't about making up a fancy name for the sake of it, right? It's about genuinely articulating your unique approach in a way that makes it clear why that solution that you have is actually different. When you do this right, you don't just stand out, you become a leader in a category of one. You become the only logical choice for that specific approach because nobody else has it, right? So you're basically creating demand, not just content. When your messaging is really dialed in, people don't need convincing. They recognize immediately that you are the answer that they've been looking for. So what happens when you do this is that sales calls just become easier because your audience already trusts and believes in your process. You're no longer trying to convince people to work with you. Instead, you're simply helping them determine if they're the right fit for your offer. So that being said, let me ask you, is your messaging speaking to the poor and fortunate souls or to the driven power buyer leaders and heroes? Are you blending in with the noise, or are you standing out with your unique angle of mastery? And is your content creating DIYers or buyers? When you fix these 3 messaging mistakes, you're not only going to attract more premium clients, you're going to attract the right premium clients who are ready to invest, ready to take action, and are going to get amazing results. If you want to know if your messaging is attracting or repelling premium clients, let's hop on a free 15-minute brand message assessment where I'm going to go in and I'm going to give you personalized feedback on exactly what you need to shift within your message and how you're communicating in order to make sure that you actually start attracting the right people. Go to brandmessagesession.com or look for the link in this episode right now to book your call. Make sure you subscribe and follow me on YouTube and Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and follow me at Favi Paolini on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, all the places. And let me know in the comments below which of these 3 messaging mistakes resonates with you the most or you're making right now. I would love to hear your thoughts. Bye.